Welcome to this platform. So in this video, let us discuss genetics. So under this one, we are going to simply define genetics. We'll go through the terms used in the study of genetics, and we are going to end the lesson by looking at variation. I hope you stay up to the end. So let us start. What is genetics? So genetics is simply the study of inheritance. So genetics is a study of inheritance, or the study of passing of characteristics from one generation to the other. That is how we can define genetics. Now, what are the terms that are used in the study of genetics? As we go on looking at genetics, what are the terms that we are going to come across? One of the terms that we'll come across is the chromosome. So what is a chromosome? So the chromosome is just a thread-like structure containing DNA that carries genes. A chromosome is a thread-like structure containing a DNA that carries genes. In other words, you can say the chromosome is just a DNA thread wrapped in a protein. Okay? So now, the chromosome carries inherited information from one generation to the other. Okay? So the chromosome, if we were to look at the structure of a chromosome, we can draw it like this. Okay, we can draw a chromosome like this. Now, if I look at part of the chromosome, it has the center part here where it is attached, and this is called the centromere. So the center of the chromosome here is called the centromere. Then these are called chromatid. Okay, these are called chromatid. All right. So that is a chromosome. We are going to talk more about this as we go on. Now, what is a gene? Here we are saying is a thread-like structure containing DNA that carries gene. Now, what is a gene? So a gene is just a section of the chromosome that code for a particular characteristic, such as height, eye color, and all other characteristics. So a section of the chromosome that code for a particular characteristic is what you call a gene. Okay. Then the other term that we can look at here is what we call an allele. What is an allele? So an allele is just an alternative form of the gene located at a specific position of the chromosome or homologous chromosome, and of course it controls the same characteristic but different result. So is an alternative form of a gene located at a specific position of a homologous chromosome. So if you look at this chromosome, so the section of the chromosome there, it has the gene, and now this gene has two forms. So the two form of a gene is what we call the allele. So an alternative form of a gene. So can be the characteristic of a gene, let's say of eye color. This exists in two forms. So an alternative form of a gene located at a specific position of a homologous chromosome is what we call an allele. And this controls the same characteristic but produces different result. For example, if you have the gene for tallness, that is height. So if you are tall, it can be you are that is your homozygous tau, that is capital letter T. Then we use T or heterozygous, where you have the tau and of course the short one. But in this case, the one that is expressed is the capital letter T. But anyway, we'll get to look at this. But what you need to know here is that an allele is just an alternative form of a gene located at a specific position of the homologous chromosome, and of course it controls the same characteristic but produces different results. Then now these alleles that we are talking of, as I have already a bit touched on this part, it can be dominant or recessive. So what is a dominant allele? So it's the one that masks or shield or suppress the expression of recessive allele. In other words, a recessive allele is the one that is suppressed or masked by the presence of the dominant allele. So where there's a dominant allele is the one that produces now the phenotype, okay, determines the phenotype. So the dominant allele is the one that masks the expression of the recessive allele, and it is expressed phenotypically even in heterozygous state. In other words, where there's a dominant allele, it is the one that is expressed. Okay? Let us look at the genotype. So for a recessive allele, I've already defined it. We said is the one that is suppressed by or masked by the dominant allele. Okay? What about the genotype? What is the genotype? So genotype is just a genetic expression or genetic makeup of an organism. That is what you call the genotype. Then now the phenotype. So phenotype is just an outward or physical appearance of an organism. And of course, it refers to observable physical characteristics determined by the interaction with the environment. In other words, the physical or the phenotype is what you are able to see, the physical or outward expression of the genes. So if someone has the genes of height T, this is tall. So you are able to see an individual, in this case individuals, you are able to see someone who is tall. And of course, if they have short genes, which means someone is short. So what you see, what is expressed, or when the genotype is expressed, that is what you call the phenotype. Now, what about the homozygous? So these alleles that we've discussed, where we're coming from, can be homozygous or heterozygous. So now, homozygous. What about homozygous? So homozygous, it means the alleles of the certain characteristics are the same, can be dominant or recessive. If they are the same, then they are homozygous. So the state where an individual has two of the same allele. So TT for tallness, that is height, TT for short, that is height. So when someone has the same, that is what you call homozygous. But in addition to this, we can talk of heterozygous. So heterozygous, it means um, heterozygous, it means someone has the allele of different, okay, that are different. So for example, the same height, T and small letter t, that is heterozygous. So one individual has two different alleles. That is what you call heterozygous, and that is that heterozygous condition. All right, I guess you've gotten something on the terms that are used in the study of genetics. Okay, have I left out any term? You should be able to define it in the comment section. Otherwise, we can proceed and look at this other section or this other part of the topic, of which I said this is the part that we are going to uh, look at as we summarize the lesson or as we end the lesson. So, variation. If you look at humans, for example, in terms of color, you have black individuals, you have white, you have brown, you have coffee. They're different in terms of color. Or let's talk of height. Also, height is different. Others are tall, others are short, others are extremely short. That is what we call variation. If we were to look at other characteristics such as eye color and all that, even in plants. So here we look at variation both in animals and also plants. So what is variation? So variation is just a different or the deviation in the observable and non-observable characteristics in a given species of organism. That is what we call variation. So variation is just a differences or deviation in the observable and non-observable characteristics in a given species of organisms. Okay, that is what we call variation. Now, let us look at variation in humans to be specific. So, humans exhibit various observable differences. And what are the differences or where you can see variation in humans? One, eye color. So eye color, others have blue eye color, others have brown eye color, others have the black eye color. And the eye color is determined by the presence of what we call melanin. So people with black eye color, they have a lot of melanin, and of course the ones with brown color have less melanin. The one with a blue color might not have, or they do not have melanin. So these are variations that exist in individuals or in humans in when it comes to eye color. Okay. Then the other one is a fingerprint. You can be of the same family or from the same family, siblings of course, but fingerprint differs. Okay, the fingerprint differs. For example, when you put a fingerprint on your phone, not even your sibling will be able to open it because the fingerprint differs. So this also shows variation. Then, of course, when you talk of the tongue rolling, others are able to roll the tongue, others are unable to roll the tongue. It can be from the same family, but of course, try this one where you look at tongue rolling. Others are just unable to roll the tongue. Others are able to do that effortlessly. So this is also one of the variation that is observed in humans. Then we can talk of height. Height, we have tall people, let's say the tallest people, we have the intermediate, and we have the shortest. So between the intermediaries, or between the two extremes, that is the tallest and the short, you find various variations in between. So height is also one characteristic that exhibit or that shows a variation in humans. Then we can talk of skin color. Skin color, not breaching please, but skin color, you find people naturally, others are black. Black, 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 others are black, dark. But others are light skinned, others are white. So if we were to look at the world population, the variation that is there in terms of color is something that is really much, much, much. There is a lot of variation when it comes to skin color. Okay. Also, we can talk of maybe the size, the shoe size. Shoe size, you find that this one wears size 3, this one size 4, this one size 5, this one size 8. It is believed that, not believed, it is that men have large size, shoe size, mostly than women. But shoe size differ. We have different shoe size as individuals. So that also can be one of the variation that is exhibited or that is observed in humans. All right. What else do you think is one of, or what else do you think are some of the variations that are observed in human? Be able to contribute in the comment section. And of course, yeah, we'll be able to benefit as well. So we talk also of variation in angiosperms or in plants. So when you talk of angiosperms, these are just flowering plants, also exhibit observable differences among them within the species. Okay, species, which means plants of the same type. Now, one of the observable characteristics here is the height. You find that some plants are tall, some are short, but we are talking about plants that produces flowers. Aside from height can be the stem diameter. Others have large girth, others have smaller girth. Yeah, even in terms of, yeah, stem size and all that. Then shape of seeds. Of course, plants do not have same seeds. If you talk of seeds, they differ. Others are small, others are big, others have pods, others are produced from. So different seeds type also shows variation in plants. Then the other one that we can talk of are flower color. Flower color ranges from green, white, yellow, blue, uh, violet. Talk of different colors that you can think of, the combination of those. So flowers are different in the plants. So this also shows variation. Shape of seeds, I think we've discussed this one, shape of seeds. So this is also a variation that is observed in flowering plants or in angiosperm. I hope you've picked something up to this point. Okay. Now, let us look at the types of variation. With all the differences that we've looked at, looking at in humans and also in plants, those can be classified into two. Okay, so this brings us to the two types of variation. What are the two types of variation? So we have what we call continuous variation and discontinuous variation. Now, to make it easy here, we start with continuous variation. Now, continuous variation, This is just a type of variation where there are several intermediaries for the particular trait or characteristic between the extremes, okay? And therefore, no distinct categories or group for the given trait, okay? Look at this. What it means, there are different intermediaries here. Look at this. If you have a graph here, and now you plot, that is the height. For the height, you're going to find that between the one that is tallest and the one that is short, there's going to be a bell shaped. So it forms a bell shaped. In terms of graph, when you find something like this, that just know that that is continuous variation. So in a continuous variation, they are uh, intermediaries between the two extremes. Between the two extremes, it means the tallest and the shortest, there are different heights in between. Okay, you have the medium, we have those, and those. So that is what it means. Now, if we are to plot the graph of height against number of individuals, so here there's height, then of course number of individuals. Number of individuals, you produce a bell shaped. This shows the examples in a continuous variation. Now, what are the characteristics that shows or trait that shows continuous variation? Height, skin color, you have the brown, the dark, the color, and all that. Then body weight. Body weight, you have the thin, the thick, all blah blah blah. And so a lot of them, as well as shoe size. In other words, these characteristics, you cannot just exist specifically this skin color. In other words, we not just have, let's say we are all brown. No, we are differences. We are different, I mean. So that is what it means. Okay. Then what about discontinuous variation? What about discontinuous? Oh, before we go to discontinuous variation, we look at continuous. So please, this is supposed to be continuous variation in that is continuous. Since we are looking at plants and animal, that is continuous variation in plants. So in plants, what are the characteristics that show continuous variation? That is stem size. You know that the plants are of different stems in terms of diameter. Okay, then length of the leaves. Also, different plants have different length of the leaves. Others are small, others are big, others. That is what we are talking of. Then internodes, we look at the space between the joints. It differs. Then size of seeds, you have the small seeds, the big seeds, and different types of seeds. So these are some of the characteristics that show continuous variations in plants. All right, what about discontinuous variation? This is just a type of variation where there is no distinct categories or between intermediaries. So in other words, here it is specific. So there are no intermediaries, okay, between extreme. Now, if I were to put the graph of discontinuous variation, still height, plotted individual or number of individuals right here, you are going to find that it is going to come out, let's say, this way. So specifically, just that characteristic. So no intermediaries in between. As you can see the graph, we present it with these bars, okay? So examples of characteristic that shows discontinuous variation, the ability to roll the tongue is either you can roll the tongue or you cannot roll the tongue. No two way about it. Okay. Then blood group. When you talk of blood group, you have blood group A, blood group B, AB, and O. So it's either your blood group A or your blood group B or AB or O. There's nothing like a mean between blood group A and blood group B. Okay. So these are examples, or this is one of the characteristics that shows discontinuous separation. Then rhesus factor is either your rhesus factor positive or negative. Okay. Then fingerprint is either, fingerprint, you have your specific fingerprint. Okay. Then we can talk of aerobe. So these are some of the characteristics that shows discontinuous variation. Okay. All right, so that is what I wanted us to look at in the first part. Going forward, we are going to look at cell division, then we'll look at some other part of the topic. Otherwise, for today, we can end here. And I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. Now, we also conduct online tuitions. Those that are interested, you can get in touch on the number 0976 402563. Okay, so we conduct online lessons. If you're interested to join, you can call the number. Each subject is 100 kwacha per month. The subject offered, we have math, physics, have chemistry and biology. So these are the subjects available. If you want to join for all the subjects, it's just 380 per month. In addition to that, we also have the physical location in the case you want to come and learn with us. It's found in Kabwata, near Kabwata Primary School along 80th Street. So if you are interested, you can still get in touch on the number and we'll be able to communicate. Otherwise, we can end here and see you in the next one.